Welcome back to Save the Pumpkins podcast. This is Amy.
And this is Shane. So, do you want to take over on this one?
This one was very interesting to me. I have a lot of...
We got to say what it is. We got to say what year. You got to do your thing. You're the one that brought it up how much you love doing it.
I agree. I think that's important. So this is Field Day 2023 Hallmark movie starring Rachel Boston, Benjamin Ayers.
Yep. And now I'm going to make the only insistence I'll ever make when it comes to the initial announcements of these. Are you ready for the spoiler? I love this movie.
You did?
I
really?
thought it was so different and great. And when you hear me say why, I don't think you'll be able to argue against it. You may not like it as much, and that's fine, whatever. People like what they like. We're not going to say Rachel Boston plays Jen Davis. We're going to say Rachel Boston plays Jen Davis, and Carmel Amit plays Marissa Morris, and Shannon Chan-Kent plays Kelly Stewart. Now, why do you think I called out those names?
Well,
what's this movie about at its absolute wonderful, glorious core?
Wow, you are just
what's it about
in this movie.
What's it about? It starts with an F, and it's not dirty.
Friends.
It's about friendship. It's about three ladies with different things going on in their lives. I mean, we don't get too deep into the non-Jen, the non-Rachel Boston character, Jen Davis. But it's three somewhat unlikely, very different women. Let me get on my soapbox for a couple seconds. If I tell one of my guy friends, hey man, I saw this really good Hallmark movie. After they stop laughing, they'll say, no, you didn't. They're all about the same thing. And what's that thing? And the reason why I say that before you answer that question, because it wasn't rhetorical, I want you to answer it. Almost all Hallmark films, when you and I, and Great American Family and all, and Lifetime and Freeform and all the movies that are like these movies that we review, I'm so glad that we're ending it on a movie that I genuinely love. They share DNA about 75%. And we look for, fans like you and I look for Autumn in the City. It takes place in New York. It's filmed a little bit better. It's a little different. They're younger. They don't necessarily get along immediately. There's something different. But at the end of the day, it's one of those. Autumn Dreams. We love Nikki DeLoach and Andrew W. Walker. That movie's like every other movie, right? Kind of. We love it, but it's what it is. If you wanted to tell me that you think Hallmark films are cookie cutter, I could argue with you on it, but I'm going to probably lose. And Hallmark doesn't mind that. They make them cookie cutter. But someone somewhere, and this might be based on a book, we just watched it, so I haven't had a chance to look up more on it. Somewhere someone said, do you know what we're going to do? Of course we're gonna foist a love story into it because, I think it's insulting to think that women. I mean, I'm not a woman, so I guess I can't speak for how insulting it would be to women. But not every story has to be a story about has to be a love story for a woman to like it. It just doesn't. Like, I'm sorry, I don't believe for 2 seconds that every woman in the world is like, I'm going to sit down tonight, and I was doing my woman voice. I'm going to sit down tonight, and I just need to see a woman be madly in love. No, sometimes there are other things going on in their lives, and a lot of it will center around love, like Jen's character, like Rachel Boston's character, Jen, in this one. Clearly, it's a Hallmark movie, so someone has died, right? Her husband has died. That's the whole purpose of them living where they live, or coming back to her old neighborhood where they live, right? To
Right. She makes a comment to her daughter
several
that
times.
this is where her and her husband
Correct.
wanted to settle.
And that's why they go back there. But she brings sadness. She brings having to start over and get involved in the PTO. They call it PTO. You mentioned that it was brilliant that you said this. They probably can't call it the PTA. I don't really know PTO, well, that would organization as opposed to association, I suppose, for PTA. You and I, as parents, have done the dance of getting involved at the school. We've done it 4 times. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's an aspect of a parent's life. And, you know, sometimes meeting friends there that come and go, that's just a different aspect. And I can relate with that more because whenever I went to one of our kids' schools, I didn't magically fall in love with the gym teacher. So
Right.
that's less for me to relate to now, isn't it?
Well,
So I get that they have to crowbar this relationship in there with Mr. constantly one eyebrow raised Benjamin Ayers. But if they had cut that romance out, and I actually think it's a well done romance, good dialogue, good back and forth, and there's some of it that's terrible. Like the last couple of lines in this movie are legitimately awful and nearly bring it down points for me, like several points. But every fault this movie has, every fault it has to do with the central love relationship that's in it. The friendship relationship is charming and wonderful and something that they should celebrate and look into more. If Benjamin Ayers, no disrespect to Benjamin Ayers, who plays Dan Aldridge, the gym teacher. No disrespect to him. If he had not been in this film, it would be literally one of my favorite movies of the fall season I've ever seen. If he were not, crucially not in it, because they do a on again, off again thing at the end of this that is legitimately stupid.
mm-hmm.
The I don't know if we should try to date now because I've been married and I've been, and I'm hurt and I don't know if I'm ready to take the chance, and he's been hurt too, so he doesn't know already if they know. It's so stupid that they comment on how stupid it is. The characters go, oh, this will be like our third time trying. They know.
Third time trying at a date that they never successfully went on and then resulted in I love you.
Not just in I love you, in the creepiest line on earth. They have his character. This doesn't have anything to do with Benjamin Ayers. They have his character lean into her after barely knowing her and saying, he's so sexy. And I was like, you didn't
I
earn,
have
you
so
didn't,
many conflicting
you,
feelings
you
about
didn't
this
earn
movie.
that one. So any of your complaints, I'm gonna let you talk about it here in a second. Any of your complaints that have to do with the love story, okay, you're right. But I do think that the dialogue, and what I mean by dialogue is exactly that, the back and forth conversations between the two, Dan and Benjamin Ayers and Rachel Boston, Dan and Jen. I think their back and forth dialogue is very funny and very sweet. And worthless. Completely worthless. I'm not saying that one of the aspects of a woman's life is not starting over and finding a new love, but for the sake of all of us in the world that watch these movies, we may have seen that a time or two in Hallmark movies. A woman that's starting over after a dead husband and finding new love. Oh my God, isn't that amazing? Have you ever even heard of that?
Okay, so
they start off with a friendship movie.
Well, okay. If anybody had listened or to our podcast from last season, one of my gripes is that in these movies they reference a dead spouse and then they never talk about that dead spouse, how they died or anything like that. This movie hit on explaining the background to how her husband died. But for me, it went too far in that I was crying. And for these Hallmark movies...
Maybe you do like this movie more than you remember.
No. For these Hallmark movies, I like how they make me feel like warm and like it's like a whimsical like experience, and it's you don't have to put a lot of thought into it. And so
I saw you getting teary-eyed over there.
so
when
as
that
much
scene
as
came up.
I appreciated that they finally explained how he passed, and so you kind of got a little bit of how that relationship was before moving on to this relationship. They just went too far for me, and I know that I'm, was asking for it, and then someone finally did it, but then
Right.
I'm like, whoa, wait a second,
You went too far.
that was too far.
Why do
like,
you think you got emotional for Jen?
well, because I mean,
Because you watched her deal with the thing you've dealt with, making friends at this school. 3 fantastic actresses that kill it in this
yes,
movie.
the
Kill it.
friends.
Kill it.
The friends did really well. Those characters, those actresses,
You love
did
her
a good job.
because you got to know her more. So when you saw what happened to her husband, if you didn't care anything about Jen's character in this, you wouldn't have cried at all.
Okay, well, I just thought that they brought that on too heavy.
Okay.
They could have just let us know the story, but they kind of went a little bit
Yeah, they did
further.
say he had like a brain tumor. No, he had a headache, and then he went to the doctor, and he was dead a few days later. They got a little bit deeper in it, but I don't know. They gave you what you wanted.
Okay, so if anybody's ever watched the Mila Kunis movie, Bad Moms,
Mila Kunis. Can I ask you a question? Do you have a name disorder? do you just
Mila Kunis,
Go ahead.
right?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, come on. I mean, I just have it with the unusual names. You know what
Mila?
I mean? Like Smith, Jones, Johnson. I mean, come on. But anyway,
I'm not gonna say it on this podcast. Your last name.
okay. But anyway, going back
Okay.
to what we should be focusing on. You know what I'm saying. Everybody knows what I'm saying. But if they saw that movie, Bad Moms, that is what I kept like while this whole relationship
see
with
that
these
movie.
girls were
I know
happening.
what you're talking about. Yeah, I didn't see it.
I kept thinking about that, and yes, they did a good job with like portraying these moms in what women struggle with every day. The one mom, her career just swallows her up, and then so she doesn't have time to be at her daughter's school for things. And then the other mom, she's the socialite, social media.
But they did a different thing there. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I want to make sure that I insert this in there. Typically what you'll see whenever they show the mom's strife and what women go through every day, typically what you'll see is the strife. Like you'll see her at home arguing with her husband, etc., things like that. They took a slightly different approach with this one. They showed you the things she's going to do to help her strife. She's going to show up at a pop-up vodka bar and dance to New Kids on the Block. What if, like, I'm not a woman nor a mom, and I thought to myself, I just bet that there are women out there that saw this and smiled so hard inside.
And I was one of them.
And I was like, man, this is just so utterly charming and sweet. And I just want these. I would watch a show called 3 Friends in this town. And it was these girls going through whatever they go through, love, whatever. I just wish they had saved the Benjamin Ayers thing for one of the episodes and not made me watch it for a whole movie because it was unnecessary.
Yeah, they make a remark in the beginning about how they have a month until field day is going to happen. And so it kind of gives you the timeline of her relationship with Dan, Jen's relationship with Dan. And so basically it's been a month that passes because it ends on field day. And throughout the whole course of the movie, like you said, they, have a struggle with not being able to carry out a first date because she has her hesitations, he has his hesitations. He's dealing with helping his niece because the niece's mom and dad are going through a divorce or just divorced, and so he's helping her out. And so they both kind of have like these prior emotional obligations, I guess, or he has a physical obligation. She's more
No.
emotional. And so they can't seem to get on the same page. And so they not fight, but,
No, right, yeah.
conflicting feelings on it. And by the time it's like they've established, okay, I'm ready to move on. My dead husband gave me his blessing, and
via a USB drive. Keep going.
And by that time it's now field day, and so him making the remarks that he's fallen in love with her, and it
just doesn't work.
She's ready. Yeah, it doesn't work. And
it was the worst part.
And
of the movie.
I don't think necessarily the love relationship was supposed to be in this movie, because they were super focused on the friend relationship and getting through, her struggles as a single mom in an environment where all of the moms, in a way, kind of portrayed a single mom vibe, because they were all consumed.
The other two girls do have husbands. Yeah.
Right. They do have husbands, but in a way, they're so focused on.
Are you ready for this one? One of my favorite Hallmark movies. What do the husbands in this movie literally do at one point when they all show up to the Harvest Festival? They just leave.
They know that
they
the women have to work.
They go away. It's not even like that, isn't it? Yeah, right. That's funny. That's the guy girl thing, the husband and wife thing. Like, we need to get out of here because the emotional women have to talk it out. I guess that's the funny. I mean, I could see why people would think that was a little sexist, but it's not even that. It's like someone told them, "You're not the focus. Get out." And they were like, "Okay."
I thought that was funny.
Awesome.
In that it did touch on a little bit of what is going on in, social relationships right now. I between husband and wife, friends. I thought that was nice. But
look, I know you're gonna get mad at me. We got if we make this episode long, but I like episodes that are long when I like something. When I was and there's so much to talk about, but we'll briefly talk about it, and you jump in. I'll let you take whatever part of it that you want to take. So we open up, and Jen is moving into this town. We talked about it with her daughter, Jen, Rachel Boston, moving into this town with her daughter, and it's the town where her husband, before he passed away, said they wanted to live. Clearly, her husband has passed away, but they don't really talk about it initially. And Jen's going to her daughter is going to her first day of school, and so Jen takes her to school, and the daughter's like, "Look, Mom, you're not gonna take me in your coffee pajamas, are you?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm not getting out of the car." Well, the minute she said that,
right,
you know she's getting out of the stinking car, right? And she's got these little adorable coffee pajamas on, and you're like, okay.
Which every mom has gone through that at some point.
Yeah. I'm going to make you realize how much you love this movie one way or the other. So anyway, Rachel Boston, who is adorable in the movie, utterly adorable. I mean, she's adorable in any way. She's great in the ice sculpture movie I talked about.
You have a lot of comments on the lead female characters a lot in these movies.
Yeah, I think, what do you mean? Like, I think I don't always glow about them, if that's what you're suggesting. Like the what's the Autumn Harvest thing? I mean, I got something to say about her, but it ain't glowing.
Okay, keep it on.
So anyway, Rachel Boston is great. She's fantastic in the movie. I mean, adorable in her. I'm not like her looks. I mean, adorable in the little I don't know, quirky. I always use the word quirky. I overuse it, so I don't like to use it a lot. But that's really what she is. So she goes to the school, and she's she's got the pajamas on. And of course, her daughter gets out and forgets her lunch, so she has to hop out and take the lunch inside, and all the other moms see her, and she's like embarrassed, but not ridiculously embarrassed because she's an adult. And of course, one of the moms that's kind of honking behind her, like, "You can't park there," is her friend, is the future friend,
Dan
is Marissa.
She meets Dan first.
Well, when she gets out of the car, I think Marissa's honking at her because she's in the car behind her. We don't know who Marissa is yet, but it doesn't matter. She goes in, she does meet Dan, and you're like, okay, like, I guess that whole part of the movie wasn't bad. It was just typical. Like, every time she talked to Dan, it was a separate movie. It was every other movie we've ever watched. And I just was like, can we watch the other movie with the friends and dealing with that's a better movie. The movie with the Dan, can you just make that a different movie and call it Jen and Dan? I mean, I might watch it, but I won't like it as much.
Mhm.
Like, that's a good way to put it. It was a separate movie when every time she talked to Dan. So she goes in, Dan's like let her in, and she put the thing down, the lunch or whatever. And she goes back outside, and Marissa, who's there, our Carmel Amit, plays Marissa Morris, is there, and she's like, "Why don't you come with me to the PTO? The PTO is happening right now. You should come." And she's like, "Okay, yeah, I guess, but I should probably change." And she goes, "No, just come on, let's go." Right. And it's a very organic way their relationship starts up. It's not ridiculous. It's like you would if you met one of the moms at school. They just tell you to come on, and they're barely talking to you because they're on the phone figuring out something else with their house or their lives. Right. It's how it would work. And they go to the PTO meeting, and they run into Kelly Stewart, played by Shannon Chan-Kent, and she is kind of this. We initially think the sidekick of the PTO president, who's Suzanne, played by Jocelyn Gauthier. I'm gonna say that wrong.
See, you got problems with names too.
Gauthier. Gauthier. Okay, I think I did an okay job with that. Anyway, so Suzanne is the head of the PTO. We learn later she's mad at Kelly or whatever, but she suggests that Marissa and Jen do the field day, which is the crap assignment. Nobody wants it because it's.
Well, they walk in there and they find out that all of the
everything's been taken.
Right, all the assignments are already full.
It's a little Hallmarky, typical Hallmark. Silly, where you nobody's that cartoonishly evil, like not cartoonishly evil, but like Suzanne is super petty and silly, and I don't think anybody's quite that bad in the real world.
Every school has that.
They do, but they dial it up a little bit on her to make her a little bit mean for dramatic purposes, if you will. So anyway, Kelly eventually, Suzanne's like, "Why don't you help Marissa and Jen?" And so the three girls are sort of voiced into this little group where they have to organize field day. And field day, fall, everything around it is fall. We were talking about fall movies. This movie is very fall. There's orange all over the place. It's not ridiculous. Nobody is scotch taping leaves to cabinets.
I think fall is a happy coincidence in this movie.
As it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So anyway, they get together and they're working on field day, and there's a little bit of tension initially, but this is why I said she's adorable. Jen is a web designer, and she's like, "Yeah, I can help out. I can do this and I can do that." And Kelly is the socialite, the Instagram mom. And she's constantly trying to take a picture of everything wherever she is. And Marissa's a lawyer. I believe she's an attorney. She is a scary lawyer lady. You remember? Mm-hmm. She talks to her at one point and says, "Scary lawyer lady." I could gloat about this movie forever. I just loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It made me feel good.
It just basically follows them on their journey to go around and find activities and what's resources they have.
Yeah, but sometimes they just find activities for themselves. Like Kelly, this has nothing to do with the field day. Kelly is like, they'll be out getting something, and they look across the street, and there was a pop-up vodka bar. I've never even heard of that, but there's a pop-up vodka bar. Have you heard of those? What is that, a thing?
No, but it looked really cool.
So Kelly's like, "Oh, I need to get some pictures for my Instagram," and Jen's like, "Oh, really?" But she does it because they're friends in it. Whenever you make, whether it's a friendship group or a love story, whenever you make it gradual, it's quality, it's believable, and it works. And they're not best friends, but they are also our moms, and they're not immediately belligerent towards each other, a little bit, but we fast forward, and she's about to go on a date with Dan at one point, and the two girls are laying on their bed with their little feet up in the air like they're high schoolers, watching her get dressed. There are so many good moments in this film when they go to the little what's the trail, like the weird place where you do the zip line thing, and when Jen looks at she's like, you guys go ahead and get on it. And Marissa and Kelly are like, okay, we're going to get on it. And everybody's getting on it. Her daughter and Dan comes by and he's like, what do you want to get on the zip line? What are you doing? Why are you just sitting here? You want to get on the zip line? She goes, and he goes, not a big zip line fan. She goes, I worry. It's more of me getting on the zip line and what would happen to my daughter if something happened to me, and she's already got.
Yeah.
And I was like,
heavy real
it
quick.
struck me in the heart, bro.
I didn't think that was what was coming out of her mouth.
And I was like, when she said that, I was like, ugh. Like I was expecting her to say, no, I don't want, I'm a little scared, or like in a lesser Hallmark movie, she would have said something that was airheaded. Well, I don't mean it like that. Like all the actors and characters are airheaded, or she would have said, "I'll race you to
Right.
Dan" or something like that. But instead, she said, "No, because if something happens to me, my daughter will be left with no parents." And I was like, ugh. It felt like I was getting punched in the heart.
I think that's why I have a really hard time with this movie.
I'm going to watch it right now. I loved it so much.
Because it took your emotions like on this roller coaster, for me at least, and I think maybe for probably a majority of women that watch it. But
yeah, me too.
I mean, and so I think that's why it's got me like. I mean, I really appreciated them bringing realism in with like the working moms and what moms are dealing with, on a day-to-day basis, and brought these women together to form that relationship. I thought that was good. It was a change. It was different. But I don't know. I guess I got what I wished for with the whole giving me the story behind why the spouse died. They just took it to a level that I just was not expecting. And when I sit down and watch these movies, I want to be entertained, and I don't want to think about anything, coming off of a day from working or family stress or whatever. I look forward to just them taking me to a place where I feel like, anything can happen.
Yeah,
and it was just kind of heavy for me.
Yeah, I think that goes back to, we've talked about this before. When I get off work, sometimes I just want to watch, Independence Day, or I'm trying to think of the movies that I watch that are sort of comfort like that. Well, all the movies I watch are, but like Independence Day or Pacific Rim, or all those movies that that you've watched with me a million times that are just sort of fun. I want to watch robots beat each other up because that's dumb. But
right.
And so I get totally, if that's what you want in a Hallmark movie, well then you didn't like this movie. There's no way you could like it.
I mean, I wouldn't say that I would write it off to that I didn't like it at all. I just was a little bit taken back a little bit emotionally, and for people who are watching Hallmark movies, like I said, to just kind of like escape life, real life, I just thought this brought it into to a day that was already real life.
Somebody on Reddit the other day posted they said, I'm a male and I like Hallmark movies. Sound off, fellas. And there was like 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 35. It was all over the age game, 60-year-olds and everything. And I posted in there really quickly. Isn't it funny how when we're talking about Hallmark movies, like if we go downstairs right now and we watch and I say, let's watch a movie, not a Hallmark movie, let's just watch a movie, you're going to pick Not Without My Daughter, I Lost My Daughter and My Husband on the Same Day. The name of the movie will be Auntie Shane, and everyone will be dead. You will pick the dramatic, emotional, real life. You will pick a real life movie. You won't pick a movie like, I know you do watch the Haunted Mansions and the silly things with me.
Oh, like Sweet Home Alabama with Reese
right,
Witherspoon.
Those are fantasy movies too, because nobody acts like that in those movies, just like the Hallmark movies are. But you will pick a movie that has real life things in it, so there's no way you can try to act as though you are into escapism in your movies. I force that on you. You don't like those. But when it comes to Hallmark movies, this one, which was infinitely more realistic, I'm telling you right now, 9 times out of 10, when a Hallmark actress, and I bring up actresses because, let's be honest, the men don't usually wind up getting incredibly emotional in these movies, just as what it is. It's the female that will get emotional in a Hallmark movie. 9 times out of 10, the actress does a Hallmark emotional moment. When Rachel Boston told Dan that one phrase, there's something about the look on her face. I think Rachel Boston's is pretty. But she's not yet again, not some Barbie doll they picked out of she's beautiful. I don't mean it like that. But she has a look like when she cries, you're going to need to cry with her. Like there's going to be a problem. You need to cry with her because that's.
Yeah, she has one of those universal faces that when she's smiling, she's really smiling, and
it's called good actor is the word you're looking for. So she's good. So at some point when she said that line, she acted. I know that sounds silly to say about a movie because of course she acted, but a lot of Hallmark actresses who will all remain nameless, and Great American Family and Lifetime and all the other ones, when they have an emotional moment, they get a very stereotypical look on their face. It's the emotional look. It's the I'm sad look. She got a look like your mom would look when she was sad, like something that would touch you, like would hurt, right? And I don't mind realism in movies, but it's like. And everybody, the movie is what you get out of it, what you bring to it, right? But it hit hard. I agree with you, but I think it hit hard in a way that was, again, when I left this movie, I was like, apart from the Dan relationship, which was a completely separate film and very stereotypical. In fact, I'll do you one better. The Dan and Jen relationship. That movie's already been made. It was called Falling for Vermont. And it starred Benjamin Ayers and Julie Gonzalo, but that movie's already been made. And it was silly and fun and had a doctor that kept his patient in his patient in his boathouse. And it was ridiculousness that only happens in a Hallmark. You do remember, you just don't remember it. She was an author, and she left the interview or whatever. It doesn't matter when we talk about that movie. That movie's already been made. I was expecting when we cut Field Day on to see that movie made again, because most of the time that's what we get from these movies. It's the same. It's the same thing.
It was a happy
They didn't
change.
They didn't make that movie again. They did, and that's the worst part of it. 25% of this movie could literally have just been cut off and left in a different location, and it would have been one of my favorite movies. I don't mind watching three ladies and their friendships. Just do it in a way that makes sense and bring something out of them that I can relate with too. Not just as a male, but as a parent, like as a person. I don't know. I thought it was fantastic.
So what would you rate it then?
What's ours? The scale is 1 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
So it drops points for the ridiculous love relationship, but doesn't drop too many because their dialogue was very good, very well written, snappy and funny. But Dan has to try to be funny in it. 4.8, 4.9.
Oh wow!
I'm
gonna go. I'm gonna do this on a selfish reason, and I only have myself to blame.
Didn't you just rate the Curious Caterer one like 4.6, 4.7? So I don't know.
No, I know, but it's like. Be careful what you wish for, and because it kind of brought me down, so I'm gonna say a 4. I'm gonna go 4 with this one.
Wow, that's the biggest disparity that we've had in watching any of these.
That really impacted me. Like I said, I watched these movies for a reason, and that kind of like made me a little bit upset with being upset. So so I'm gonna rate it a 4, and that's probably not fair. And
no, what are you talking about? It's not fair. That's how you feel. That's how you feel.
No,
That's how you
I
feel.
know, but I think that if people watched it, they probably say I was being too hard on that. But
like if you push me to, I could probably 4.7 that thing. 4.7. I want to give it a 4.8 because it's so different. But if you push me, I could. Could I too? If you push me to, I could, because there are other silly, typical Hallmark movie moments in it where they're, the sprinklers come on at field day, it rains them all out, and they have to have a good idea and go inside or whatever, and that's all just sort of typical Hallmark setup stuff. But when those girls, two ladies, see how I just called them girls? You know why I called them girls? Because their friendship made them youthful. It took them back to when they were kids. And I'm a male. I don't have any idea what it's like to lay on a bed and look at a girl try on clothes for her boyfriend or future date and tell her that this one. In fact, I looked over at you because I had no idea what outfit Rachel Boston was trying on was cute. I mean, like she wound up with a purple one or whatever, and you were like, "Oh, I don't think that looks good." And I was laughing because it was funny to watch you do what the two girls, Marissa and Kelly, were. They jumped up on their bed and put their heads that went in with their heads in their hands like this to watch her come out of the room with different outfits on. And it was like, you're a lawyer and you're like an Instagram mom. You're doing all of this because you have found friendship. What a novel concept in a Hallmark film. I just loved it. Everybody should watch it at least once. I want to watch it again.
Agree. All right. Well,
do you want to end this one? And this will probably be the last one we make, which makes me really sad.
Well, maybe there will be some surprises along the way.
Yeah, and we've got the Christmas season coming up. Hallmark forces me to be in a Christmas mood, I think, before I'm ready to be in a Christmas mood. And I don't want to be
I just feel like it's like we don't record these every single day, but I feel like that the recording session happens so quickly, like time just is going by, and so here we are talking.
Quickly with this one?
Huh?
You know what happened quickly with this one? It's such a great movie.
I'm just saying that we introduced that we're going to start watching Christmas movies, and it's October 28th.
You're right, though. You just brought something that's really interesting. We'll have like a little quick 2-second conversation about it. Recording these, way easier than finding the time to watch them. Way easier. Right. Coming up here and where we are upstairs and recording these, and this is peaceful. Carving out time to watch these and also watch everything else we watch. That's hard. Yeah. Like if we were to break and go watch a Christmas movie tonight, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Right. No, I mean, I look forward to the recordings. Totally. And sometimes it's a little challenging, like you said, to take the time to, watch them.
Well, because you...
But that's why I'm saying that it's, to me, what I get out of it is important, because, look, we're saying that it's hard sometimes to find the time to watch these shows. So when I watch it, I don't want the content to be bringing me down, man. Like I need a little bit of that escape. And this movie, though it was really good and the actresses and actors did really good, I felt kind of down after it was over, and I just don't like that.
I'm going to be honest with you, not for my own personal gain, because I wouldn't gain anything from it, because I don't know how many people are listening to our podcast. I hope those ladies hear this, and that they made a male go, freaking finally. Not every movie, not every woman in the world has to be the broken-hearted, stereotypical Hallmark thing. Yeah. Sometimes just a friendship is great.
See, and I think that's why it's fun watching these, because you go into these movies hoping that you're going to be swept away by something clever. And so, when we first started on this journey last year with Save the Pumpkins, it was kind of us poking a little fun, because all of the movies had the same theme.
Good point. Yeah.
We would laugh at, there it is again. They did that again. And I feel like this year these movies have evolved. And are starting to say, hey, let's bring,
they're taking chances.
Huh?
They're taking chances.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty interesting. That where will we be next year?
That's so true what you just said, though. Like when we first started this, I remember thinking to myself, well, they're all kind of. I don't mean it to be nasty, but they're all kind of the same. we're just going to go and have a good time telling the ones that we like, but they're sort of, the word is they're guilty pleasures, right?
Right.
I don't feel guilty about liking Field Day at all. It was great. And when I tell my friends, sometimes my country accent, because when I tell my friends, that's what I just said. When I tell my friends that I like Hallmark movies, because obviously I don't care who. I don't care what someone thinks about me, about movies I like. It doesn't make any difference. When I tell them that I like Hallmark movies, I get it, right? Like, I had some females, your mom, I mean, tell your mom I like Hallmark movies. She doesn't question that a male likes them. She questions that a human being likes them. Like, why would you want to put yourself through that, is the look I get. And it's like, oh, I'm bringing it back around to your point, which is a great point. They're supposed to be comfort. You watch them so that you can feel warm and cozy and go pick up that pumpkin spice latte or whatever it is, right? And I think if you had gotten the pumpkin spice latte for Field Day, you'd have cried in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't expecting to cry in it.
Right.
And I like that. The unexpected sometimes is really good. Didn't seem like it hit home for you to be as unexpected this time, but I really liked it.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, so we hope that you'll enjoy it and you'll let us know what you think.
Let us know how
if you agree with what I say or if you agree with what Shane
There's
says.
no competition. I totally get everything you're saying is completely valid, totally right, and all that fun stuff. It was just a breath of fresh air. It was like being sick and going outside on that day. You know, that day when you've been sick. I could go on with metaphors. On that day that you're done being sick and you go outside and you can breathe good for the first time. That's what this felt like. It was like,
wow, you went deep.
Yeah, you go deep.
Real deep.
You go deep all the time. It was my turn. All right.
Well, thanks for listening, and stay connected with us as we transition into the next holiday season, and hope that you will stay with us and look forward to hearing what we have to say about the Christmas movies. And always remember to do something that makes you happy today.
Thanks much, guys.